Perfect. Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWACTalk. This is a show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See what's coming at you. And we have another schedule to take a look at. We still have two more that have not been officially dropped yet, so we waiting those. But today we're going to talk Texas Southern. We're going to talk about their schedule, and I'll give my thoughts on it. And I also give my score on my SWACTalk schedule ranking scale. And we'll talk about it from there. Also, don't forget tomorrow to check out my top 5 FAMU quarterback video that's going to be dropping. I got a Jackson State video dropping Sunday. Also, the top 5 quarterbacks of modern time. I always want to throw that in there because I don't want anybody to get mad that I left somebody off from like 65 or something like that. I like to keep it around the time that I was watching so I can, if I know anything about the guy, I can give my own little blurb about it. So that's why I keep it like that. With that being said, man, y'all hit those socials. Facebook is SWACTalk, Instagram SWACTalk, Twitter SWACTalk76. If you have any suggestions for my top 5 quarterback list, you can hit me on my socials, or you can hit the email swactalk76@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Like the video, share, and feel free to comment your thoughts on this schedule or anything else, and we can chop it up there. So let's go ahead and jump into this, man. We're not gonna waste no time getting into this. First and foremost, my initial thoughts on this schedule are a couple. My first thought is it's an 11-game schedule in a 12-game year. I don't like that. For what, maybe circumstances came where you couldn't find a game or somebody canceled on you. I don't know the ins and outs behind the scenes, but I am not a fan of having the option of playing 12 games and you only play 11. Not that it hurts anything or helps anything. I just think that when you have the opportunity to play your games, you should play all the games that are afforded to you. It doesn't hurt. That's my first thought that stood out to me when I saw this, because I could have been talked about this schedule because it's been, I've seen this schedule for a long time, but I kept thinking that would be a 12 game, and then when the schedule was officially announced by the team, I saw 11 games, and I wasn't a fan. I'm just gonna keep it that way. I wasn't a fan, and I don't dislike the schedule per se, but I don't like 11 games. No matter who it is, I don't like 11 games in a 12-game season. That's like playing 10 games in an 11-game season. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if you have a reason, I hear it and go from there. But without any reason, I just don't rock with that. My only other gripe about this schedule is Virginia Lynchburg, and I shout out to Big Thrillo, the ex-TSU player and huge fan, for telling me the main reason why they play these type of games is homecoming. They play on campus for homecoming, and those are the only teams that they can play on campus. You can't play D1 games in that stadium, so that leads to, if you want to have a homecoming on campus, then you have to play those type of teams. Still not a fan of it. I would love to not see anybody. Excuse me. I would love to not see anybody else in the SWAC play these guys, or Lincoln, or anybody else like that. There's enough solid D2 teams in the area, in the region, that you could play if you just had to play a lower level team. But I get it. I get the circumstances, and I understand it and I respect it, but I still don't have to like it. And I didn't like it when Virginia Lynchburg was on my team schedule. I don't like it when they're on anybody else's schedule. So I get homecoming, you get the win, you get to play on campus and all of that. So I understand the circumstances behind it, but still don't like it. Other than that, I don't really have a problem with their non-conference schedule. They do get to stay in the state of Texas for quite a bit, and they don't, they playing, their two other non-conference games are in Houston, which is obviously Rice, which is in Houston, and then Beaumont against Lamar. So no long trips. They do go to Tallahassee. That's their longest trip of the season. So that, they have a pretty favorable schedule. Have a pretty nice home schedule as well. And we'll look at these games. So let's start it off with August 31st, the Labor Day Classic. This year is at Prairie View. The streak still stands. Last season, a lot of people, including myself, thought that this would be the year that TSU ended that streak, and they had the opportunity and didn't get it done. They have a new coach now. They're missing some weapons from last season, so we don't know where this team is going to be at. But it's still a big game. That's a heck of a first game for your coach to have to go on the road and play against a rival that you haven't beat in a long time. So there's a lot of pressure in this game. I'm not saying that it's make or break for him, for Coach Dishman as a new coach, but that's always going to be looming. And the fact that could have broke the streak, blew a 17-point lead, lost in overtime. You still have this chance to break the streak again. So that game goes without saying. It's the first game of the year every year, unless circumstances make it be like the last game of the year. So you already know what you're getting into when you play that game, and it's on the road this time. So we'll see how the Tigers do. September 7th, their first non-conference game is at Rice. So they have one FBS game on the schedule. And looking at my my score that I give these schedules, TSU ends up with 9 points. They have eight FC. They have 9 FCS opponents. No, they end up with 10 points. So there are 8 FCS opponents, which are 1 point apiece. They have a G5 opponent, which is worth 2 points, and then they have a -1. So my math is all messed up. Those 9 plus the 9 plus the 2 is 11. Minus the 1 is 10. So they have 10 points. Sorry, I had to do the math. I had to count on my fingers. Sometimes my math is not great. But Rice is the first game in the non-conference on the road. Obviously not a long trip. Should be a decent turnout. Opportunity to kind of find some rhythm for your team. Rice, is a pretty tough opponent right now, so that's always a tough matchup. They get an early bye week on the 14th. I'm still holding out hope that a game will be probably put there. I'm not saying that that's anybody said that, or because I just don't really want this to be a 11-game schedule. So I'm holding out hope that something falls in that spot. But if not, then that's a bye week on September 14th. September 21st, they're at Lamar. So both of their D1 non-conference opponents are on the road. Again, not a long trip. Lamar, they play Valley as well this season, so a couple teams get to play against the Cardinals. They weren't that good, and they haven't been good in recent years. Again, this season they were 6-5, so they were better than they were in previous seasons, but they still aren't great. They did go 5-2 in the Southland, but they're still a team who should be beatable. I don't think they're unbeatable. I don't know where TSU will be at this point, but that's not a super challenging game. That's a very good game for a non-conference on the road. It's regional, and like I said, not a long trip for you. September 28th, they jump back into SWAC play as they host Jackson State. Should be another game with a great turnout. October 5th is homecoming. Now this schedule list that this game is at Shell Energy. I'm not sure. I thought the game would be at Durley. So I don't know if anybody can tell me one way or the other. Because if it's not at Durley, then I think that's a horrible game. If it's on campus, then I totally understand it. But if it's not on campus, then I don't get it, and I definitely don't like it. But that's just that's just one of those games. Like I said, it is what it is, and you're not gonna get a lot out of it. October 12th, they get Southern at home. So they have a nice stretch of home games. They get Southern on October 12th at home. Uh, they get a bye week on the 19th. October 26th, they get Grambling at home. So they have 4 straight games at home, basically stretching from the end of September to the end of October. They do have to go on the road after that for a couple of weeks. And that's something I'm not a big fan of, is back-to-back games on the road. But they go to FAMU on November 2nd, and then November 9th, they go to Alcorn. November 16th, they're at home against Bethune-Cookman to close out their home schedule. And then they close out their regular season at Pine Bluff on November 23rd. So looking at this schedule, it's like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm picking on TSU, because I keep saying I don't like a lot of things about this schedule, but most of it is negligible. The Virginia Lynchburg game is the one thing that I just, it just doesn't sit with me. But I get it. If that game is on campus, I get it. Like I said, the other 2 non-conference games are a G5 opponent in Rice, who is gonna be a tough opponent. But then Lamar, who had a winning season last season, but still I think is a team that you can compete with. It's not a bad non-conference schedule for a first-year coach. No 2 FBS opponents, which I definitely like. You get a lot of solid home games. You get Jackson State at home, you get Southern at home, you get Grambling at home, all in a 4-week span, well, in a 5-week span, because you have a bye week mixed in there. So you have a stretch of games where you should have potential for great turnouts. You got Jackson State, you got Homecoming, you got Southern and Grambling. Not a lot of teams have a stretch of home games like that on their schedule. You do have those 2 trips to Alcorn and FAMU back to back. That's tough. And then Bethune-Cookman and Pine Bluff to close out your schedule. So your tough games are kind of, like I said, Prairie View is gonna be tough, because that's the season opener. It's a rivalry game. You haven't beat them in a while. Rice is an FBS game. Lamar is a solid FCS opponent, but not unbeatable. And then in conference play, you do draw some tough Eastern Division opponents, Jackson State and FAMU. And then Bethune-Cookman, who could be a lot better than they were last season. So their schedule in conference is not easy. Pine Bluff right now is probably the only team that I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure on Bethune-Cookman, but I feel like they're moving in a better direction. Pine Bluff could get there, and Pine Bluff beat them last season. So that's something to not be ignored. And obviously going to Alcorn is going to be tough, because the Braves going to want some get back. But we'll see what his team is, under a new coach, new systems, new everything. So we'll see what his team is at. And the schedule is not super challenging. Like I said, you get a lot of home games, you get a lot of games in the state of Texas, so you don't have to worry about a lot of travel, and that should be conducive to that new coach smell for the first year. So on paper, the schedule shapes up really well. It's a little challenging in conference play, but nothing's impossible. You do have opportunity. I'm not, like I said, I can't say one way or the other how you're gonna do against a team like Lamar, because I don't know what kind of team you're gonna have. But stranger things have happened. So you do have an opportunity to win some games. I'm not gonna put a number on it yet, because I don't know anything about the team yet. But I overall, minus the 11 games and the Virginia Lynchburg game, I'm fine with the schedule. It's not bad at all. I mean, like I said, it's only 1 FBS opponent and a regional FCS opponent, which is, if you ever look at my videos and you hear me talk about what I think a schedule should be like, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you can have an FCS team for a home game, but if not, then a D2 game for a home game. But you got Virginia Lynchburg instead. But hey, it is what it is. I'm not gonna keep griping on that. But Lamar and Rice are good non-conference games in terms of regional appeal. So I don't have a big problem with the schedule. So other than 11 games in Virginia Lynchburg, I don't have any problem with it. I do love those 4 home games in a row. I love that, and it really balances out your schedule because you have 3 games on the road to start the season. You do have a bye week in between those 3 games, but you start off on the road three games in a row. You come home for 4 in a row. You go on the road for two in a row. Then you go home and then road. So the schedule's kind of loaded in terms of being at home and being away. It's almost you got a road trip, you got a homestand. So it gives and takes. But I would probably sprinkle some kind of way sprinkle a home game in between a couple of them road games. But you have to work with what you got. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. C Well signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.